President of the Hope Party explains the current closure of the border. CEO of PJIA explains the financing from the World Bank and the European Investment Bank. And Governor of St. Martin says we must come together to turn this crisis into a common purpose. Those are the headlines for Tuesday, September the 8th, 2020. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you for joining me this evening. And we have a full newscast for you, so let's get started. In our first story, the House of Parliament sat in a solemn plenary public session this morning, Tuesday, September the 8th, 2020, for the opening of the parliamentary year 2020-2021. The chairperson of the Parliament of St. Martin is Rolando Bryson, who introduced the Governor of St. Martin, His Excellency Eugene B. Holliday. A parliamentary year is open on the second Tuesday of September or at an earlier date to be laid down by national ordinance with a discourse by or on behalf of the Governor expounding on the policy to be pursued by the government during a solemn plenary public meeting of Parliament held for that purpose. In his speech this morning, Governor Holliday says that as a community, we must come together to turn this crisis into a common purpose, that we must work together to find a workable balance between safeguarding the health of our people and the health of our economy.
Mr. Chairman, members of Parliament, as we endure the impact of this public health and social economic crisis, we must come together to turn this crisis into a common purpose. That is, we must work together to find a workable balance between safeguarding the health of our people and the health of our economy. Government's agenda has, as a result, been dominated by the response to the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. That, without losing sight for the long-term development needs of our country. Confronted with a coronavirus outbreak and the resulting significant loss of income, government's immediate priorities are: first, to contain the outbreak of the virus. Second, to support schools and business continuity, prevent layoffs, and protect the most vulnerable among us. Third, to jumpstart the economy and implement the required reforms. And fourth, to raise the required financing to offset the loss in revenues and cover budget deficits for the remainder of 2020 and fiscal year 2021. Mr. Chairman, members of Parliament, government is, as such, committed to working with social partners, businesses, and labor unions to realize these priorities and put St. Martin on a path of sustainable socio-economic recovery and growth. A path which is to reflect the objectives of the National Development Vision 2030. The National Development Vision 2030 aims to anchor our country's development goals and mission for the coming 10 years. Government will take steps to diversify and create a multi-pillar economy, one that affords maximum growth for all, where opportunities exist to empower each citizen to progress to the next level through their determination, strength of mind, and action. The key underlying objective of the National Development Vision 2030 is to transform St. Martin into an economically resilient, compassionate, strong, and decisive country. The ongoing community consultations to obtain input from the various partners for the development vision is a critical part of the preparation process. There is no limit to the progress that we can realize when we work together to address our challenges and seize opportunities. Mr. Chairman, members of Parliament, during the initial outbreak of the coronavirus, government activated its Emergency Operating Center, EOC. To contain the outbreak, government declared a state of emergency and locked down the country by instituting a curfew and restricting international travel, a decision which was not taken lightly.
And at the closing of Parliament for the year 2019-2020 on Monday, September the 7th, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Grisha Heiliger Martin, said that as a country, we must remember that we have a choice. And today, she wants to remind her fellow parliamentarians of who we are as a people.
As a country, we must remember that we always have a choice. And today I want to remind my fellow parliamentarians of who we are as a people. If we run into a wall, we don't turn around and give up. We figure out how to climb it, how to work around it, or with the power of the people behind us, we will find a way through it. Mr. Chair, this determination I speak of comes from the resilience. And yes, the word resilience has no expiration date, Mr. Chair. It's the power to overcome something. I have seen in the people of St. Martin that have stood their ground for decades amid adversity. We have survived devastating hurricanes such as Irma, Maria, Lois. Yet by the grace of God, we are still standing. That's the true power of resilience. That's part of hope. It's something you don't want to ever give up on. And today, Mr. Chair, we face perhaps the worst economic and constitutional challenges of our lifetime. Despite these challenges, I am confident that we will outlast this global pandemic known as COVID-19. I am equally convinced that we will survive every challenge and conquer those whose aim it is to destroy the very fabric of our society, weaken our government, and turn us into beggars to satisfy their agenda. Mr. Chair, the main priority for this honorable House must be safeguarding the well-being of our people. Parliament must be the vehicle for the development and the prosperity of the people we represent. To do this, we must make decisions that are in the best interests of our constituents, as their interests are paramount. Despite opposition from within and outside influence, we must remember that we are only accountable to the people of St. Martin who elected us in office. So if we fail them, and only they have the power to remove us. That is real democracy, the power of the people, Mr. Chairman. The shameless threats against our democracies are the reasons why I have made it a top priority to finalize the decolonization of our island. Mr. Chairman, we have all heard the argument that you can't eat autonomy. But Mr. Chairman, allow me to debunk that myth right here today. As a resilient people, and yes, I say the word resilient again because I have hope. As a resilient people, we as a resilient people have always eaten, and we will continue to eat. But we should demand the right to eat with dignity as autonomous free people. It is not either our autonomy or our livelihood. It's both our autonomy and our livelihood.
And still to come, Director of the NRPB tells of his involvement with the World Bank and the airport. I'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News. And as the Princess Juliana International Airport prepares for the reconstruction of their terminal building, SXM Daily News spoke to the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Brian Mingo, about the financing from the World Bank and the European Investment Bank, the process, and how it is going.
I started in January 2019, and one of the key things, of course, is for us to have a comprehensive rebuilding plan, a reconstruction plan, because a reconstruction plan gives you the big picture. Be the existing operations, you need to get that business back. We're not like hotels where we could say, okay, no more guests, let's fix the building. We have existing operations going, so we had to have a plan for that. That is more the operational part. And then, of course, you had a reconstruction part, where it's engineering, you had the whole architecture, and, of course, the most important thing is the money. So when I came in January, a lot of the things were done, but they were not completed. So we also had an issue with the insurance proceeds, during which we had to make sure that we could have collected the insurance proceeds because the building was insured. That was also a process that we had to go to arbitration. So that is part of the funding. So there were a lot of boxes that needed to be completed. A lot of these chapters needed to be put in a kind of a program, and I call that a comprehensive program for recovery for the airport. Don't forget, we already had engineers, Corrigan, working on the reconstruction design. The building itself is the same building, but of course with improvements. Mirto could maybe explain a little bit more about these improvements. I'll give you one simple example. I said all the stairs in the airport should be escalators because my mom is getting older too, and I don't want her to walk with these bags. I don't know if you could recall. But we had a perfect airport. We needed to do some betterments, some fixes here and there, but we had a perfect airport. And the price tag for fixing this airport was above the insurance proceeds. So we had a problem. The insurance proceeds weren't enough to just rebuild the airport, so I had to look for funding. Now, I can't really look for funding if I have an existing loan. So we had in 2012, we borrowed close to $143 million. This is an existing loan that is up to 2027. So having that, imagine you have a mortgage on your house and then your house got damaged, you get insurance money, but it's not enough to fix your house. What do? So you needed to put something together. We went on the open market, looked for funding. That never, really materialized in our satisfaction. I think the deal would have been a little too heavy for the airport. So we said, let's look at the World Bank. Let's look at the EIB Bank because there we can get loans and support of the Dutch government. And of course, making sure that we get the right rate so we can cover it in our cash flow. So we're talking about loans 2.25%. You can't get that on the open market. So that said is like what Mirta said, we got $100+ million because I say plus because there are additional stuff, components in this that can also support us with additional works. And of course, I initiated the cooperation of Schiphol. The Royal Schiphol Group, the Netherlands, has a very big airport, an airport that does more than 70 million passengers a year. I think more than 75 million. And we can learn from each other. I just got off the phone example this morning with Aruba Airport, how they're taking and handling this COVID situation. So we can learn from each other. That is what you do in an airport community.
Meanwhile, Director of the NRPB, Mr. Claret Connor, told our newsroom about his involvement with the World Bank and the bidding process for the airport.
I think that that the segue from Mr. Brill on how the project was put together, and then the explanation of the CEO in terms of the challenges at the airport confronted right after the hurricane, dealing with the bondholders, brought about the engagement with the World Bank. And obviously, as Brill being the project coordinator, a project manager of the PMU for the airport, I am the project director or the program director of the PIU for the country in terms of the complete trust fund. So there is some similarities to that. But the issue for the airport at the time was, how do you deal with all of the different elements that they were confronted with? The existing indenture, which was I think 143 million, that was mentioned by Mr. Mingo. The fact that they had insurance proceeds and then they had to negotiate with the bondholders. They needed additional funding, and additional funding was made available through the trust fund, not to the airport but to the country. So the country received the money, and then the country unlended these funds to the airport. So the country is basically responsible for ensuring that these monies are paid back. Now, that doesn't happen easily. Parliament was involved in these decisions. The government was heavily involved in these decisions, and as the NRPB, our responsibility is to ensure that the execution of the agreements that was made, because we were in March last year, 2019, we were in March negotiating with the bondholders on the proceeds that the insurance that they held claim to at the time. And then the airport also needed some liquidity. I think we negotiated a $15 million bridge loan that was made available to the airport so that it could have continued paid its staff and its obligations in 2019, while we deal with all of these other pressing important issues. So to say that time has passed and nothing has happened, you would have had to be in these actively involved in this period to understand exactly how much has happened in order for us to get to a place where the funding is secured, the agreements are in place, and now the execution is to be done by the project teams. The role of NRPB is really to help in the coordination, and we are responsible for the oversight on behalf of the country for the financial aspect of this project.
Now, turning to our weather forecast for September the 8th, 2020. As of 11 a.m., Tropical Storm Paulette was located about 1,300 miles east of St. Martin. On its current path, this system is expected to pass north of the island towards the end of the week and is not expected to pose a direct threat to St. Martin. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Rene was located about 2,100 miles east-southeast of St. Martin. It is expected to become a hurricane in the next day or two. However, Tropical Storm Rene is also not expected to pose a threat to the island. The Meteorological Department of St. Martin will continue to monitor these systems and update the public accordingly. So the outlook through Thursday midday, partly cloudy with isolated showers possible. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, Business Development Officer at the Chamber of Commerce says her aim is to assist the business community. And we'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
Welcome back, viewers. And as we turn now in news from French St. Martin, the saga on the northern side with the closing of the border continues. President of the Hope Party and Councilman Mr. Jules Charville, speaking to Carl Javois, explains the closure of the border on French St. Martin. The councilman says that the final decision is now up to the prefect whether they are going to lift it altogether, but something has to be done.
But of course he explained us that I can't say his hands tied, but he can't take major decisions. Yeah. So the final decision is the prefect. She's the one that has to take that final decision. But so I think in the next 2 days max, we should hear from the prefect whether they're going to lift it all together or they're going, something different must happen. That he agrees. The school children, tomorrow morning, the gendarmes could be a little bit more flexible. They're going to look at what is the situation according to the situation, but we don't agree with that.
But did you also tell him they are not consistent in what they are doing because some is allowed to pass and others are not?
No, I was very forceful in that. I proved to him, and then, he always would say, I'm going to look into it. I know the chief of the gendarme deny it, but he seemed to know about it but doesn't want to admit it, which is the fact that it's stopping our French children from coming from the doctor to go to school.
Yep.
But an American
and European
visitor in Europe, any visitor actually, even from the other Caribbean islands, they show the return tickets in their passport, can go, can come, go outside, buy things, come back as long as they want, and that I think he was very embarrassed about that because I told him how to explain it. And so I proved to him that what they're doing doesn't make sense, and that was very embarrassing. I don't think he was embarrassed. So, but he can't say, like he said, I can't tell you all now that tomorrow morning we're going to lift it. I have to talk with the prefect and the higher authorities, which is the Minister of Overseas, the Interior Minister, etc. So that's where we are for now.
And now back with news from Dutch St. Martin. Business Development Officer at the St. Martin Chamber of Commerce, Sharilyn Bryson, speaking to SXM Daily News and the Voice of St. Martin Radio on Monday, says that her aim is to assist the business community and to come up with strategies and gather information for them as to what their needs are and how the Chamber can assist them. Meanwhile, Executive Director Mr. Jude Houston says that from the economic impact study that was done, the Chamber is expecting a contraction in the economy of St. Martin for 2020.
To come up with strategies, and because we live in the Caribbean where we are faced often yearly with natural disasters, and the pandemic is part of that issue too as well. So to really advise the businesses and gather from them what their needs are in relations to any natural disasters and something such as the pandemic, and to really advise them how to go about those steps logically on, okay, what would I need, how do I prepare, who can I go to if I have any questions or crisis pertaining to certain issues, whether, think very broadly, whether it's to your business with, if it's immediately impacted structurally or with the COVID, having people have to come in and change the whole aspect of wearing masks and so. So really get that idea as to how we can better tackle those issues and how we can actually be supported as local businesses. So my hope is that we can just come together and strategize on how best to tackle these problems.
Conducted an economic impact study. I can tell you that we are somewhat. We are expecting a contraction in the economy of St. Martin for 2020. That's a given the current situation. From the Chamber's perspective, what we have noticed for example, if I am to look at the trends or the analysis over the last 8 months, or the first 8 months of the year, July, August, what we have noticed is that the business, for example, in our data that we have collected thus far, we have noticed that there have been somewhat of almost 50% decline, increase, 50% increase in the number of new startup businesses for 2020 compared to the same period of 2019. So for example, in 2019, January to July, we have had something like 600 new startups, and for the same period of 2020, we've seen a little over 300. So that's an indication as to the whole economic developments within the business community.
And still to come, KPSM is investigating a serious traffic accident on the Sacred Gut Road. And I'll have the details of that story when SXM Daily News returns. Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. As our electricity company continues to carry out the necessary maintenance in their distribution system, residents should take note that the power supply to DV Hotel, former chillers, and surrounding areas will be interrupted on Thursday, September the 10th, 2020, from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m., and they are also informing the general public that the electricity supply to South Reward, Reward Road, Cherry Nut Road, Pigeon P Road, Pigeon P Drive, Okra Road, Okra Drive, Cassava Road, Cassava Drive, Pumpkin Road, and Pumpkin Drive, as well as Arrowroot Road and surrounding areas, will be interrupted on Saturday, September the 12th, 2020, from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. This outage will allow them to carry out the necessary maintenance to their distribution system. And NVGEB hereby also informs the general public that the water supply to Pelican Key area, which is Billy Folly Side roads included, will be interrupted on Friday, September the 11th, 2020, from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. And this outage will also allow them to carry out the necessary maintenance to their water distribution system. They apologize for any inconvenience that this may cause. And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, the Traffic Department of KPSM is investigating a serious traffic accident that took place at the crossing of Tassel Road and the Sacred Gut Road last Saturday evening, September the 5th, about 1:10 a.m. According to the report, the driver of the red Hyundai Tucson with license plate number M11298 was driving on the Sacred Gut Road going towards the Corralito Road and fell asleep as the wheel veered to the right and slammed into the fencing on the side of the road. As a result of the collision, the driver of the car suffered minor injuries to his left hand and a swollen knee. He was treated at the scene by the personnel of the ambulance department and transported later to the St. Martin Medical Center for treatment. A utility box belonging to Taylem was also damaged during this collision. The investigation into this accident is still ongoing by the personnel of the Traffic Department. And with that, viewers, we've concluded this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you so much for joining me. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.